Probably. I'd like to call to order the July 14th meeting of the Onalaska Common Council. The time is 7 p.m. We'll turn to Joanne Marcon, our city clerk, for the roll.
Mayor Kim Smith,
Here.
Tom Smith,
Here.
Dan Stevens,
Here.
Stephen Knott,
Present.
Leanne Stokes,
Here.
Larry Jurassic, Diane Wolf.
Here. Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 3, rules of the City of Onalaska Common Council and its subcommittees. This is a harassment-free forum. City council and subcommittee meetings shall be conducted in a courteous manner. Citizens, council, and committee members shall be allowed to state their positions in an atmosphere free of slander, obscene remarks, or threats of violence. Sufficient warnings may be given by the sergeant at arms or the chair at any time during the remarks. And in the event that any individual shall violate the rules of decorum as set forth, such person may then be cut off from comment or debate. Item 4 is public input. This is a time where any person may address the Onalaska Common Council. If you would like to do so, please come forward to the podium, begin by stating your name and address, and please, for courtesy, limit your comments to 3 minutes. Would anyone like to address the Common Council this evening? Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Sue Jacobson, and this is Melissa Bachenstoon. We are representing Cooley Cap of La Crosse. We are from 700 North 3rd Street in La Crosse. And Cooley Cap is a nonprofit organization that has been in service for about 50 years, providing services to community members. We would like to talk to you tonight about a program that has come out recently. It's called Wisconsin Help for Homeowners. It allows us to provide financial assistance to individuals who've been affected by COVID. We can assist them with mortgage payments, real estate taxes, insurance, utilities, internet, as long as we can tie it to a COVID event. And that may be anything from a loss of job, a cut in hours, illness, family member being sick, loss of daycare, loss of children being able to attend school. And this program does have income limits. A family of 4 can make up to $90,000 a year and qualify. And we can award up to $40,000 per family. So there's a lot of opportunity there for us to help not only the residents, but the employees of the City of Onalaska in getting this program out there to the public. So Melissa would like to talk to you about a second program we have.
I also just wanted to touch on with the Wisconsin Help for Homeowners. We also have Legal Aid of Wisconsin available. So if you're in foreclosure, we would have an attorney represent you for no cost. So the second program we would like to discuss is called the Community Develop Block Grant. And I can help anyone in the areas of Monroe, La Crosse, Crawford, and Vernon County. My only exception is not in the city of La Crosse. We are able to assist families up to $10,000, also to help with mortgage assistance. And I can make this in payments going forward, up to 6 total payments. So those are the 2 programs, and we do have a brochure and some business cards over there on the table. So if anyone would like to take them, post them at their office or share on social media, wherever, we would appreciate it.
Yes, we'd really like the opportunity to work and partner with the City of Onalaska because there's a number of programs that we can help homeowners with. We are doing some things now with the County of La Crosse Treasurer's Office. And I think there's a lot of people in this community who would benefit from our help. So please reach out to us if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the Common Council this evening? Is there anyone who would like to address the Common Council? Third and final call for anyone wishing to address the Common Council this evening. Public input is now closed, and I will move on to the report from the mayor. Item A is the appointment of Eric Archer to the Board of Zoning Appeals. I'll entertain a motion regarding this item.
I'll make a motion that we approve the appointment of Eric Archer to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Tom Smith, seconded by Alder Diane Wolf to appoint Eric Archer to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Any discussion? Okay, please answer when your name is called.
Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Stephen Knott,
Aye.
Leanne Stokes. Aye. Tom Smith,
Aye.
Diane Wolf. Aye. Larry Jurassic.
Thank you. Eric has been appointed. Regarding item B, recognition of police officer Joel Flatten's promotion to sergeant and the swearing in of police officer Mike Johnson, I would like to turn it over to our police chief Ashbeck. And thank you to all the support from the department this evening. It's nice to see.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's my honor tonight to recognize Officer Flatten to the promotion of Sergeant. If you don't know, Sergeant Flatten has been an Alaska native for about 14 years, and he has been with our department for about 10 and a half years, serving as a patrol officer in various functions. Prior to that, he's had some time with the Village of Camp Douglas Police Department, and also 6 years in the Onalaska or the Wisconsin National Guard. So he also has served in many roles as a field training officer, emergency vehicle operations instructor. He's on our recruitment team and is working on his drone pilot license for our program that we're just taking off, no pun intended. So I would like to recognize him and have him and his wife Christy come forward to pin his gold badge on him. His promotion was effective May 29th. So he's been these last couple of weeks doing some training and out on the road working as a sergeant. So congratulations. And
Sean, do you want to come around here for the photo?
all right, next, it's my pleasure to recognize and I guess introduce Officer Mike Johnson. We recently hired him as of May 31st. And he has started the academy out at Western Tech College at the Sparta Angelo campus. So he's attending out there daily and will be until October 10th, his graduation there. So we would like to have him sworn in tonight by our city clerk, Marcon, and have his girlfriend Alexis come up and pin his badge on after the swearing. So I'll first.
Raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Michael W. Johnson,
I, Michael W. Johnson,
having been appointed to
have been appointed to
the office of police officer
the office of police officer
for the city of Onalaska,
for the city of Onalaska,
swear that I will support
swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of
and
Wisconsin,
the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully and impartially
and will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of said office
of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
I just want to make a special shout out. Michael's grandfather was the chief of police in the Spring Grove Police Department, and that's where Michael is from. And his grandmother is here tonight. So I think it's a really neat honor that kind of come full circle here. It's in the family. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item D, promotion and badge pinning of firefighter EMT James Netwall to C shift lieutenant, and also recognition of B shift firefighter Lieutenant Jason Velblum for completing his 1-year probation. I will turn it over to Chief Goody for those items. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you, Mayor and Alderman. Good evening. I'm honored tonight to recognize 2 of our firefighters that have worked very hard for this promotion tonight. They combined have 33 years of service, so they've worked their way up through the ranks to the position of lieutenant. First, after 11 years of service, firefighter EMT, Jason Velblum was promoted to B shift lieutenant on May 28th, 2021. Tonight, we are recognizing him for officially completing his 1-year probation. And joining him tonight are his 2 boys, Jack and Owen. They're in the back of the room there. I think they just got done with baseball. Okay. Next, with 21 years of service, firefighter EMT Jim Netwall is receiving a well-deserved promotion to C shift lieutenant. Attending tonight is his parents, Steve, and I believe Mary is live on YouTube watching, and his wife Tammy and daughter Lily, and Lily will be pinning on Jim's new lieutenant badge. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item F is an update on the O Academy. The O Academy is the Informed Citizens Academy that we've been having sessions on. The next one coming up will be on July 14th. We will be featuring our own Onalaska City Police Department. So be sure to register through Park and Rec if you would like to attend. We'd love to have you here. Item G, I just wanted to acknowledge that I had issued a proclamation in recognition of Dave English and his service to the city. Dave English was a longtime Onalaska resident. He contributed a lot to the community and to students, but he also volunteered a lot of his time in the Park and Rec programs and worked part-time in the Park and Rec department. And the shelter dedication was last weekend where we were able to recognize him and rename the community park shelter in his honor. So that is for information only. Moving on to recommendations and approval and or possible action from the following committees, commissions, boards, and officials. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests removal, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in the order of business in the non-consent agenda. Are there any items that councilors would like removed from the consent agenda? Stephen Knott.
Yes, item M, the approval of ordinance 1734-2022 under judiciary.
Thank you. Are there any other items members would like pulled from the consent agenda? Not seeing any, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Tom Smith, seconded by Larry Jurassic to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Moving on to the non-consent agenda. Under 7, recap of items pulled from the consent agenda. The item pulled was M. So we'll deal with that one first, and that would be under judiciary. Go ahead, Larry.
Motion.
So under Judiciary Committee, item M, Larry is the chair of that committee, so he can bring that one to the floor. What was? Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Larry Jurassic, seconded by Diane Wolf to approve ordinance 1734-2022. Under discussion, Alder Knott?
Yeah, so this is something I had had concerns with in the past. Most of them have been addressed. I think the only remaining item was the definition of weapons or dangerous weapons. Also understand that we have other ordinances that define dangerous weapons, is what I understood happened inside of the Judiciary Committee. I'd just like to, if I could, ask for clarification on what that is so that we can get it on public record and have possible additional discussion.
Thank you. Is there a staff member present who could read that definition for us? I think maybe Katie Aspenson would be the best choice.
Thank you. All right, so a dangerous weapon is any firearm loaded or unloaded, any electric weapon as defined under WSStats 941.295, parent 1C, parent A. Metallic knuckles or knuckles of any substance which could be put to the same use with the same or similar effect as metallic knuckles. A nunchuck or any similar weapon consisting of 2 sticks of wood, plastic, or metal connected at one end by a length of rope, chain, wire, or leather cestus or similar material weighted with metal or other substance and worn on hand. A shuriken or any similarly pointed star-like object intended to injure a person when thrown, or a manikarusasari or a similar length of chain having weighted ends. I apologize for my pronunciation.
Okay, and that the concern here is just that they would be using those items as a method of home occupancy employment, right? As selling them or something of that nature?
Correct.
Okay.
Can I clarify?
Oh, Amanda, is that you?
It is.
Okay, we'll hear from Amanda Jackson, our city attorney.
So it's not just simply meeting the definition, it's basically having repetitive purchase and resale, exchange, production, refinement, packaging, or handling of dangerous weapons. This prohibition does not include occasional sales and exchanges or purchases for a personal collection or a hobby. So I mean, this is really focused on like the commercial sale on a larger scale, not to prevent, your average homeowner who may, occasionally sell or trade a gun. I just want to make sure that's clarified.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen, do you have further questions?
No, I don't.
Okay, any other comments? Alder Stevens.
The term occasional could be subjective. I mean, if somebody as a hobbyist were to sell something once a month, how are we defining what's too much or not enough to be commercial or occasional?
I think a lot of that also comes down to the fact that if you run a major or a minor home occupation, we are setting allowances if you have employees, how many customers are coming and going, your hours of operation. So if you're exceeding those levels, it gets to that point where it's becoming more than someone that does something once a month, or maybe it's once a week. It's when we start to see it and someone has a question that they would come to the city and we would have a conversation about, is this an actual business that you're operating or is this a hobby? So it's at some point that it becomes more noticeable.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there any other discussion? Oh, I'm sorry, Alder Jurassic.
Yeah, the only definition would be is if they need a license to sell, that would clarify everything.
If I may, Larry, can we just confirm that your mic is on? Somebody online indicated they couldn't hear you. I just want to make sure it's not
That's on.
It's on. Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, would the clarification be if they're required to have a license to sell, wouldn't that clear it all up?
So if you're
They
doing
don't
it
have a
as,
license and they can't.
if you're doing it as a hobby or for personal collection, or you're selling a part of your collection, that you can do, but you cannot actually have that type of a business run out of a home. If you wanted to do that business, you'd have to be appropriately licensed and you could go into a commercial area elsewhere in the city. This is just saying you cannot do it in your home.
I mean, it's the same argument we used to have with real estate. People would buy and sell real estate 3 or 4 times a year. After that, like 4th time, it was required that they had to have a license. That's what I was wondering if.
The city does not require a license for that.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Okay, the motion on the floor is to approve resolution 16-2022. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Mayor, what was that motion? It should be 17.
I have
1732.
6. Oh, I'm on,
1734.
okay, hold on. I said the wrong number. We'll have to redo that. I was referring to the wrong thing on my sheet of paper. So it's an ordinance. That's why I was looking at Joanne, because I was thinking it would have to be a roll call vote. And then you weren't giving me any signal. So I veered
not need to
off
be
the
roll call,
path. I
but-
apologize.
So there is no second.
That is our entertainment for this evening. Okay, so the motion on the floor is to approve item M on the agenda, which is for ordinance 1734-2022, and the voting will be by roll call.
Diane Wolf. Aye. Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Stephen Knott,
Aye.
Tom Smith,
Aye.
Larry Jurassic,
Aye.
Leanne Stokes.
Aye. Thank you. That is approved unanimously. Good discussion. Now we are moving on to the non-consent agenda item 8, the Finance Committee. Alder Stevens, take it away.
Actually, Your Honor, I would refer this to Alder Smith. I had a business engagement this week so Alder Smith chaired the committee and probably be more appropriate that he gave the numbers.
Perfect.
Okay.
Alder Smith, take it away.
Mayor, yes, the Finance Committee reviewed and approved vouchers for $1,671,107.43. So I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Smith, second by Alder Stevens. Is there any discussion?
I was Alder not,
Oh, gosh,
or
I'm
Stevens.
Both have
even not,
Stephen.
I'm. Okay, motion was by Alder Smith, seconded was by Alder Knott. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Alder Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 8A, 8B is discussion and possible action regarding request for proposal, RFP selection, and associated contract for the city and Omni branding services with Meter, I think it's Meter, agency not to exceed $65,000. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Alder Smith. It's been seconded by Alder Jurassic. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, Alder
Question.
Smith.
One of the things we just wanted to follow up is that we wanted to make sure it didn't exceed 65, which it looks like it doesn't. But also, did we get the contract status in place? One of the things I think Diana, you had mentioned that usually we have the contract before we approve it.
The contract is in the
It
packet.
is in the pack. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't get the revised one. Okay, I guess I'm good.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. If maybe Dan Wick and or Amanda, I just had a couple quick questions regarding when I read the contract and then I also looked at the RFP. Are we looking at my first question would be, it talks a little bit about engaging community.
Correct.
And what is that going to look like?
Well, I think that's still to be determined.
Okay.
But I think as we go through the process, we will want to engage, have different focus groups or things like that along the way to help us make the best decision we can as we rebrand the city and the Omni.
Dan, I believe Meter's in the audience. Do you want to have them introduce themselves?
Sure, be happy to.
Just put him on the spot. Sorry, guys.
Wonderful.
Hello,
Welcome.
Kirsten Boudreau, and I'm one of the co-owners of Meter, and happy to be here tonight and to meet all of you.
Thank you. So with that being said, do you have an idea how the engagement portion would work, or is that something to be developed?
It is to be determined as we have kickoff and planning meetings, but we envision focus groups with key stakeholders and community members who will help provide input into the personality and aspirations of the City of Onalaska and the Omni Center.
Thank you. Would the other people like to introduce themselves?
My name is Claire Kelly, and I'm one of the media coordinators for Meter. And I'm Taylor Weiss, and I'm also a media coordinator at Meter.
Thank you. Yes, please do.
And if I remember correctly from my reading, that there's going to be like two groups from on the city side. One that will be talking about the branding for the Omni Center, and the second one that's going to be more the branding for the City of Onalaska, correct?
Correct.
That's correct.
I think that's all I have for right now. Thank you.
All right, Alder Knott, did you have a question?
No, just a comment, I guess, real quick. I guess as a reminder, as we move forward, that the Omni rebranding was mentioned in the budgeting process, that we expected that to nest underneath the city branding. So.
Okay.
You said the two different groups, right? But I mean, they shouldn't be separate and distinct. Yeah, so.
I think the Omni Center group, for the Omni is more focused with the Omni Center manager, the sales manager, park and rec director, and I know I'm missing one or two. Whereas the city hall was legal, city administrator, the mayor, a council member, and I know there's a couple others.
They
Just
just-
a little bit.
They just need to talk to each other is what I'm getting at. 'Cause we don't want them going off two different trails where they're not even synchronized. So.
That was one component of the RFP, Aldernot, was that the brands did have to be kind of cohesive. Like somebody needs to visualize them and understand that they are within the umbrella of the city.
That's an excellent point. Okay, Alder Stevens and then Alder Jurassic.
I think maybe some of the confusion had to do with the funding mechanism from the city and the Omni Center, that the Omni Center had funds coming from the county, and then the city funding was from us. But yes, they should be cohesive and work together.
But the 65 covers both. That's correct.
Or does it? Yes.
Yes.
I think 65, we got 75 from the county and the city budgeted 25. And I know there was a breakdown.
The reason we funded it the way it was, part of the funding that came from La Crosse County was not only the rebrand, but the implementation. So we held back some of the funds that are coming from the county so that we can implement some of the things that we do as we go through this process. So there is funds available from the Omni Center section, that is fund that came from the county that has been designated so that we can implement this process when it's done. Because rebranding is one step, but the implementation is going to take more. So that's why we held back the funding so that we could do some of that work once this rebrand was completed.
Yes. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so the motion is to approve the contract at an amount not to exceed $65,000. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Item D, Administrative Committee, Alder Wolf. Is that right?
9A,
Yeah, that's right.
discussion and possible action regarding the amplified device permitting procedure. Joanne Marcon, our city clerk, came to A&J last Wednesday and pitched the possible idea of updating and or changing the amplified device permitting process. And I think if I may go ahead and turn that over to you, and if you want to go ahead and briefly explain, this was referred to tonight's meeting for all input. So there's no decision coming out of A&J. Thank you.
I'm looking for feedback from the council to see if they would like to keep the current process that we have for the amplified device. Right now, the way the ordinance is written is that all permits, all applications come before the council for approval. What I'm proposing, to see if you're interested in, to see if you would maybe only be interested in hearing the applications where they're looking for a noise variance past 10 PM. Or if you would like to continue to have every single amplified device permit come before the council. One of the problems that we can run into is that if somebody comes in and applies for an amplified device permit the day after council, and they're looking to have an event within the next 30 days, they can't do that. They need to wait until the next council meets for that approval process. We recently changed special events so that the smaller ones go through an internal process of approval. You're still all notified. The council still sent an email letting them know about the special event. So I'm thinking that perhaps we could take that same route with the amplified device, where the events that are going to end before 10 PM can go through an internal review process. And again, you would be notified about it.
Okay, thank you for that recap. We'll go to Alder Stevens first, and then Alder Wolf will come back to you.
This question would be for the city clerk. The time I've been here, I don't ever recall us turning down an amplified sound permit.
That's
So
correct.
if that's the case, I mean, this is stuff we should streamline. I like the idea of going to council if it's going to be after 10 PM, or there'd be some variant that would require special attention, but I think it would be more efficient for our residential customers and people that want to do events to not have to stretch out the process unnecessarily if the outcome is going to be the same regardless. So we're wasting our time and theirs. Let's do it quicker.
Thank you, Alder Wolf, and then we'll go to Alder Knott.
Stole my thunder. I agree.
Yep.
100%. Yeah. And that was one thing that was talked a little bit about, anything after 10 o'clock. Because it's not the norm. So I would certainly support what the city clerk is proposing with going after anything after 10 o'clock, that it would still come before council, come before A&J and council.
Thank you, Alder Knott.
Just wondering, maybe we might even want to consider some more flexibility and have it and go until 11 o'clock on Fridays and Saturday nights.
Amanda, do you want to weigh in on that? I'm only thinking about, we'd potentially have to change more than one ordinance to do that, but
Oh, okay.
we'd be changing our
We could just
amplified.
make a motion now, or is that, because
Wait, I think we would make a motion.
I mean, ultimately tonight, I'm just looking for some direction if you would like to see us come back with an ordinance next month. So basically, if I get the consensus that you would like me to have staff prepare an ordinance, it would be brought back next month for review.
it sounds like we have a consensus.
I don't think so.
Okay, Alder Jurassic has some.
And this still has the 7 checkoffs from each of the different staffs, correct?
The amplified device application only requires the chief of police and myself to sign off on that. Often it is in conjunction with a special event, but not always. So if there is a special event involved, then it's signed off by all department heads. But if they're coming and asking only for an amplified device permit, the way it currently stands, it's just the chief of police and myself.
Thank you for that good explanation. Alder Knott?
Yeah, the agenda has discussion and possible action on it. So is there any reason why we can't make a motion and just have it done tonight? I mean,
I think we need to see the wording on the ordinance.
Yeah, I think I would prefer to come back with the written ordinance next month.
okay, so anyone who comes forward with a amplified device request between now and then is still gonna be out of luck. I mean, the wording, it doesn't seem like it'd be all that complicated.
Okay, Alder Wolf.
Your Honor, I think typically the process has always been to always come back with an ordinance, comes back to A&J. The good thing is, well, the bad thing is years ago, it was always first, second, third, first reading at A&J, then the next month was first, first, second, final reading. So we've sped up that process. We've already cut off a month. to just have one reading at A and J. So I would be, I hear what Alderman is saying, but what 3 or 4 people went through it this last month, and I think for one more month, I think to make sure that we've got all of our i's dotted and our t's crossed. That's how I just don't remember us just automatically saying this is the ordinance without actually going to A and J.
Well, we want to
Be an
give the
amendment.
public time to weigh in on it too. We don't want to suddenly have, work out the details of the wording and then have it pass without any opportunity for public
Right.
to have an outcry. Not that I think they will on this topic, but we just don't want to start that.
I just don't think that's ever been a process. Thank you.
We can always change the process, though. I mean,
Right.
if we
We
wrote
could.
it poorly, we can always amend it later, but if it waits a month, it waits a month. It's.
Right. And we're at the same place that we already were. Okay, well, thank you for to take the initiative to bring this forward. We do really appreciate proactive solutions.
Thank you.
Okay, so that is probably, so we have a motion on the floor, right?
No.
Didn't.
No, we don't.
No, sorry, I'm just off tonight.
Wanted
Okay.
to make a motion, you wouldn't
I
let us.
know. I said no.
You can make a
Okay,
motion
we've
to
given
direct me to bring
staff
back an ordinance.
direction.
I think.
Moving on, item 10, Board of Public Works, Stephen Knott.
Yeah, so this discussion and possible action on electric transmission line easement by North States Power Company. This is an item that did not make it to the Board of Public Works last week, but I understand it is time sensitive, so we needed to consider it tonight. So at this time, we'll turn it over to Jared.
Thank you. In your packet tonight, we do have a proposed easement from Northern States Power acting as Excel Energy. This is for the transmission line that is getting replaced between Briggs Road and Holman and the substation over off of 12th Avenue and Double S in the city of Onalaska. This is for a city-owned piece of land. If you go to your packet tonight, we did include a overall map showing in yellow the proposed easement location. This is next to the freeway. This is basically a passive open recreational space. It's already got the line going through it along with another line from Darylin Power. So it's really unbuildable land. It's just cleaning up what they're going to realign the line for this area from the wood line out towards Sand Lake Road at the Mayo property. So staff is recommending approval.
I'll make a motion that we approve the electric transmission line easement by North States Power Company as depicted in the map provided by Jared.
I second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Alder Knott. It's been seconded by Alder Stokes. Is there discussion? Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. So in the packet, on the packet page 34, there's a letter from Don Tollefson that he remarks that they're offering to, Excel is offering to pay us $500 for the new easement. But on the flip side of the page, on page 35, the easement, it talks about in consideration of the sum of $1.
The compensation would be $500 is what is being proposed. So a lot of times in the easements, they write it as in due consideration of getting $1. So that way they're saying that they're getting compensated.
Okay.
But we are getting paid the 500. The city would compensate the $500.
I just didn't want to lose $499.
Nope.
Thank you. And I just didn't have a chance to ask you earlier. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Are there any other questions or comments? Alder Stevens?
Was just kind of curious, how was the sum of $500 derived?
There's a computation sheet on page 40. So basically they have taken that the land is worth $3,000 in an acre and then adjusted it down to the compensation of $390, but then they usually round up to a minimum number, which is 500.
Where will the funds, it's not a lot of money, but what GL will it go into? Where, the $500 that goes. to the city
I would assume it would be just general city income. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, we would probably put it in miscellaneous income.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, so the motion on the floor is to approve the electric transmission line easement. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Right, we're getting down there. I think part of the reason I'm having trouble is because the agenda was amended so many times and it's got like all those arrows and I keep losing my place in it. It's kind of crazy. Okay, so now we are up to number 11, report from the city administrator, resolution 17-2022. I will turn it over to Eric Rindfleisch.
Thank you. The resolution is a preliminary resolution to vacate and discontinue a portion of the alley between Third Avenue North and Fourth Avenue North, City of Onalaska, La Crosse County, Wisconsin. And Jared, I think you're probably the best person to speak on this issue.
Thank you. Jared Holter, our city engineer.
So we have a landowner that has requested the vacation of this alley. This alley is between Third and Fourth. It is on the Fourth Avenue side of that area, just west of Pearl Street. Currently, there is an alley that is being used going north-south and then turns to the west toward Third Avenue. This section, if you drove by and looked at it, there's no garages. It looks like somebody's yard. They've been mowing it, they've been maintaining it. So that is the request that's in front of you tonight. Katie Aspenson, our planning manager, has been in contact with the owners coordinating this this vacation. You have specific questions?
Okay. Alder Stevens?
So I drove by the property and as you stated, I mean, there's grass there now. Is that, and it's going to continue to be grass or are they wanting to connect to the alleyway and back?
As far as I know, they are not planning on utilizing it, but it would be their land then. So they could do a building addition. They could use it for whatever purpose they wanted, but their garage currently that is shown on the map actually accesses the current existing alleyway that runs north-south.
I noticed that off the alleyway, there was maybe about 10 feet of gravel off of the alley heading towards Fourth Street North. So is essentially the property owner just wants the property and the city really doesn't have a purpose for it? Is that?
That's a good, yes, that's a good description, correct. We have no need for the alley.
Okay, are there any other, Alder Wolf?
Thank you, Your Honor. And I've been asked a handful of times, so, and Jared, so when I looked it up, I'm assuming this is the property at 503 Fourth Avenue North that's currently owned by Toledo.
Katie, is that the address of the?
I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Katie gives a thumbs up that was correct. We don't have a motion on the floor.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 17-2022.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Alder Knott. It's been seconded by Alder Smith to approve the resolution 17-2022. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion passes. Back to you, Eric Rindfleisch.
Thank you. Under item B and a new attachment as of yesterday is a review of city policy 4.09A, the face covering policy. Included in your packet is the current policy as is already in effect. Ironic to be discussing this, we do have a large amount of employees either positive or sick right now. However, with the second time, I've had to disclose to the employees that the policy is again in effect. I've been asked by many of them to bring it up for reconsideration to see. And basically what has happened, policy's not been in effect since La Crosse County went to medium and low. In May, again, it went to high according to the CDC, the county itself. And a week later, as per the policy, I communicated to the employees that the policy is in effect again. And a few days later, then we went back to medium. Therefore, the policy was no longer in effect. Fast forward now, it's 2 weeks later, and once again, the county is back to high according to the CDC guidelines. And it's the map on CDC that is utilized on their website. But following their guidelines, once again, as of Thursday, we are back into high status. Therefore, the policy, again, is in effect. So the policy is automatic. The responsibility of the administrator is to notify of activation, but the activation itself is based on when the CDC map comes out. I think we have very high rates of vaccination and boosters. But the requests are from employees is if we are need to continue doing so, effectively we'd be making employees unwilling participants in sort of the policy versus something that they supported earlier. I have not polled every employee, but I did suggest to people that I would bring it to this body for discussion to see what your thoughts are on the current policy.
Thank you for that. Alder Knott.
Yeah, I think personally the time for this has come and gone. So what remains the same that concerns me is that the United States, the CDC, and therefore, La Crosse County continue to use what I consider to be bad data on making these determinations. And the reason I say that, the United States is one of the only countries in the world that still today refuses to separate out incidental hospitalizations from total hospitalizations. Almost no one else in the world is doing that anymore. They're splitting it out to get a more clear picture of what the actual COVID virus is doing. So we really don't know, looking at the data that they publish online, what is actual ground truth on how many people are being hospitalized because of COVID, as opposed to being hospitalized for something else, and then they get detected with COVID and get reported as being a COVID hospitalization. When almost no one else is doing that anywhere else in the world. So that's what is still the same and still continues to be a concern on me. What has changed is the severity of the virus. Once we started coming out with the BA1, BA2, now we're all the way up to BA5, is the vast majority of the people who even catch this disease basically get the sniffles. It is not the same as the wild strain and the Delta strain and the Beta strain that actually did create significant issues with health, especially among the people who had pre-existing conditions. It's not the same virus anymore, because over time viruses do mutate, and they basically almost always, if not always, mutate into less severe strains, although it is easier to catch. So the severity has changed. Herd immunity has changed since this was first enacted. We didn't have herd immunity when this was enacted. We do now. And then the last thing that's changed is a lot of the data on what we know. When COVID first came out, we didn't know a lot to start, with a good example is natural immunity. Well, now we pretty much know from multiple peer-reviewed studies over and over and over again that natural immunity is at least 10 times more efficient or effective than just receiving the virus is, or excuse me, just receiving the vaccine is. And yet we still don't even have any consideration of that inside of this policy. And then as far as this thing I have on my face, when the virus first hit, we all masked up. We didn't know. We did this as a precaution. We just didn't know whether or not it was effective. Well, over 2 years now, multiple US and international studies on mask efficacy, most recently just in the Lancet. Now this was granted just for school-age children, that one, within the last 2 weeks or so, they used the exact same methodology as the CDC did and came up with an entirely different result, because they went with a 6-fold increase and a random selection as opposed to a cherry-picked selection of a small population. And they came out with, again, for those of you who don't know, the Lancet is arguably the greatest respected medical journal in the world. It's certainly going to be in the top 2 or 3, I would argue, of anyone that's going to be reviewing that. And there is no efficacy, is what they came out with when they did that. None. So, which again, fits every peer reviewed study I've ever read. I've had a challenge now going on well over a year. Can somebody please show me a peer reviewed study that shows they do work? And no one has been able to show me that yet, and I have never found one. There are studies out there that say they work, but none of them are peer reviewed, including the CDC's own study that they published for school age children that the Lancet just debunked pretty much for all time. So I just think with all that considered, with everything that has changed since this went into effect, I just don't see why we have this. Right now, it just causes stress on the staff. It's like, put them on, take them off, put them on, take them off. And to what effect? Because the masks, and I've concluded anyway, based on all these studies I've read, they don't work. They do nothing. In fact, there is a recent study that came out also in the last 10 days that shows they actually may be extremely harmful when it comes to the severity of the disease if you catch it. And it has to do with the fact that you're creating like this incubator inside your mask with this mass moisture that's capturing your own virus, and then you're breathing in heavier than you normally would because the mask is on your face and it goes in deeper in your lungs. That's what I understood when I read that study anyway. And that was also a peer-reviewed study, by the way. So yeah, it's time is done, folks. Let's just get rid of this darn thing. That's my view. And in fact, I mean, I'll make a motion. I say I'll move that we revoke the policy on our face covering policy.
I'll second it.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Alder Knott. It's been seconded by Alder Jurassic to discontinue city policy 4.09A face covering policy. Discussion. Let's go with Alder Jurassic and then we'll go to Stevens and come back this way.
Okay, my background, I was a medic in the United States Army for 21 years. I worked with chemical weapons and biological weapons. So I know what a filter means. This disease is measured at let me back up. Let me explain what a micron is. Micron is a method of measuring something. You take a human hair and divide it by 1,000, that'll give you 1 micron. This disease is currently measured at 0.036 microns. So basically it takes 17 molecules to get together to form 1 micron. The mask that you're currently wearing will filter out anywhere from 20 to 50 microns. So you're saying anywhere from 200 to 600 germs have to get together and still can penetrate that mask without touching it. You're not talking about anything about the side of the mask, the top of the mask. I ask an individual, simple, if you were walking into a smoke-filled room, would that mask protect you? Obviously, it will not, because it'll come in through the sides. That's my knowledge of micro. Now, the only difference is if you have the disease, now you're producing moisture with it, and that will stop going through the filter, through the mask itself. Or receiving it through this way, no, there's nothing. It's a psychological thing, and that's all it is.
Okay, thank you, Alder Jurassic. We'll just come around this way and then when we get to the end, we'll vote. So we just don't have a protracted argument here. Go ahead, Alder Stevens.
So Alder Knott made some pretty compelling points. I would be prepared to support this. However, we as alders are typically not here all the time. So I'd be kind of curious that the staff who's affected by this, if they wanted to get rid of the policy, I'd support that. But if there was widespread support from people that worked at the city that wanted to keep this in effect, then I don't know that it's right that we as a legislative body would go against the wishes of the people that are here and doing that. So has there been any surveys or anything done from staff?
No surveys. The conversations occurred basically in the past. Employees reached out to me to express appreciation for mask policy and protecting employees and keeping it, the government open. This time, all the calls I've received thus far, the conversations I've had thus far, people saying it's time to end the mask. every person been surveyed? No. This was added yesterday, just based on the change of status.
Can't hear me.
We're having difficulty.
So we can't hear you again.
Take the mask off, so.
All it was mumble.
I'll take the mask off.
So unfortunately, we have people here this evening to test and then we put a, cloth over our faces and now it's like, so it's harder for us to gauge. So sorry.
I will do this again.
Better.
Much better. It's been placed on the agenda because in the past, employees have generally reached out to me to express their appreciation for taking steps to protect them, make sure the city hall is open, understand, protect. But since yesterday, the conversations that people have reached out to me to express has been that it's time to not necessarily have the masks. They're vaccinated, they've had it, and they aren't necessarily expressing their appreciation is the best way I can say it.
Is a sample of the people that have reached out, like one or two people
Handful.
or?
Handful, in every case, it's been handful. So no more than 5 each time.
I guess myself, I would like to, I'm fully prepared and I think Stephen's right that it's time, but I'm not here every day. So I honestly, I think we should just let staff take a vote, and if they want it gone, I'd be good with that.
Alder Stokes?
You mentioned when you started talking, you said that you've had quite a few people that are sick and out. Do you have like a percentage of people? Do you know how many? Is it 20% of your staff? Or is it?
Oh, no, much less than 20%. Perhaps Amy or Amanda would have the current stats. It's generally reported to HR and legal. Amy, any idea?
I don't have an exact percentage. We've kind of varied throughout the pandemic. We had a few months where we had no COVID activity this spring, and then sort of when it began to increase kind of county-wide, we started to see an uptick at City Hall. And so at any given time, we may have 1 to 2 staff members that are COVID positive, with another, 1 to maybe 3 to 4 that are considered close contacts, whether through work or family.
If I can tack on to Alder Stokes' question, have any of the COVID cases that we've had been rated severe, or as Alder put it, kind of bad sniffles?
Hospitalization. Or hospitalization.
Oh, hospitalization is tough too, because they don't separate incidental.
I don't know that I can speak to the severity of individual cases, but as far as the frequency or the number of cases, I know I've been tracking it by date. There's been a handful between this month and the previous month. The majority of the uptick, I think, has passed from notifications that we've received, but again, we still continue to get those people that are testing positive and or a close contact.
Thank you, Amy. Okay, we're coming this way. Alder Smith, did you want to comment?
Yeah, I agree with Steve and Dan, and I mean, I think it's time to end it, but I also respect the opinion of the staff. They're the ones that are here, and I would support it, but it would be nice to maybe do a survey and see, is it 50%? Is it 20%? To get their feeling, because I don't want us to just make those decisions. It's easy for us. We're only here, come and go. So I respect the opinions of the staff, but I do think it's probably time to eliminate it unless we have enough staff that says, no, we'd rather keep it. That's my thought.
Hey, Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, I agree with Tom and others. And I see everyone's side of it. I mean, I think it's time to end it also. I was curious when Alder Stokes asked about like how many. I think too, for some people, I think it's easy enough to say that, for some people it may be the sniffles, but just because one isn't hospitalized does not mean that they may have a really tough time of it. I've been fortunate. I only had to, I've only, in all this time, and I know I'm really lucky, I've only had to take one test, and that was only because I was going in for surgery. So I know I'm the rarity here at City Hall, because I know everyone else, so many people have been lined up time and time and time again. So, but I could not agree more with Alder Stevens as far as, even though we are the ones that set policy, I am very hesitant to make that decision for staff, because they are the ones who are here. They are the frontline workers. They are I mean, I'm very proud of how, and I hope that City Hall employees are in agreement of how staff, administration, how council stepped forward a couple years ago. You know, we were approached, we were asked to put things in place, barriers in place to protect our employees. We did that. We spared no expense. We said, this is what we have to do. You know, we've come through some really tough times. I think we've learned a lot from it. And I think we're doing things a lot smarter. And staff administration continues to bring things before us to talk about how we can be more business friendly and make things easier for the community. And I think a lot of that has been born out of COVID. So we've learned a lot. But I would think that maybe a simple Survey Monkey, you know, for a day or two, and whatever the parameters this council may want to put on it. But the one thing that I would would expect, though, that if we have some type of policy or whatever it may be, that if those employees who wish to wear a mask, that we continue that there's some language in there that they are not bullied, they aren't shamed, because I mean, we don't know what is going on in people's lives, and it's not for us to judge. And if they want to wear a mask, that's what they feel comfortable with, that's what they should be able to do. If someone, you know, and I would certainly encourage, you know, people have a cold. You know, colds sometimes are not the easiest things either to get through. Some people have suppressed immune systems and such. So, you know, people want to wear a mask, you know, if they have a cold, they don't want to spread it, but they still want to come to work every day. So I would certainly be open to lifting it, but I think we need to ask staff, and I would very much be in support of what staff has to say.
Okay, so the motion we have on the floor is, okay, Aldernott.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, my only concern is that we're continuing to implement a policy that was created before we had study after study after study on masks. And we're ignoring the results to a large degree now for well over a year of the studies after we've received these results just because we got comfortable doing what we were doing before we had that information. Well, we have that information, folks. I just don't see why we would even delay. I just don't. And to Diane's point, there's nothing that prevents anyone from wearing a mask if they want to wear a mask. And that was true before COVID. It's true during COVID. And I mean, so if somebody wants to wear a mask, then wear a mask. There's nothing that would prevent them from doing that in any of the policies we have right now, is there? Yeah, I didn't think so. Yeah, okay. So I mean, we got the motion on the floor. If somebody wants to try to amend it, they can, but I just think it's time to end this, and let's just be decisive and take the leadership role and do it, and be done with it.
Let's have a final comment from our city administrator.
One thing of note in conversations with staff that I've heard from you about my staff, excuse me, is there are practices that have been put into place that they themselves have put into place over the last 2 years, which I think we'll continue to see, and I think as a body, hopefully you would support as well. But meeting in larger rooms, not sitting so close. When people have colds, you see that they do remove themselves and they don't, you know, cough into their hands and open doorknobs and things like that. So I think we have better practice that we can be healthier. Again, the goal is to support the health of the employees as well as stay open for business, which we can't do if everyone's sick at the same time. So I've seen some good practices, and I want to commend the employees for taking that on themselves. And regardless of what happens with the policy, I'll certainly support them in their practices to make sure they retain good health.
Thank you for that.
Could I ask, what is the motion on the floor? Because it's been a little.
So-
revoke.
The motion is, keep in mind it's worded, the motion is to discontinue the face covering policy, which is 4.09A. So a vote of yes would be to discontinue, and a vote of no would be to continue with the policy as is.
Discontinue means it would go away as far as one of the policies.
If you vote yes.
We did have a second right
Yep,
Can I
I
ask-
show. Amanda?
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
So we do also have an infectious disease control policy, which is the main policy that this falls under. Right now, the city does follow the CDC's quarantine guidelines under that policy, which does have people mask if they are a close contact to COVID. Is it the intent of the council, if they revoke this policy, that individuals would not need to mask if they are a close contact? Or are you just looking at our basic general face covering policy, and we're not touching the definition of quarantine or masking that may fall under that policy?
Okay, my understanding was that this is just regarding the 4.09A face covering policy, not the larger policy that this is a part of. Does the council agree?
Yes.
The council agrees.
Okay,
So
I just,
maybe-
I anticipate we'll get questions at some point, so I just like it cleared up.
That's a good point.
Dan, did you agree with that? I
Well,
feel like
I
you
ha-
have some clarifying questions you need.
I
to
did, we were talking first that we were gonna, discontinue, and then we got into the conversation that, well, no, we should go to the actual staff and have this survey done. And then, so if we vote yes, that we want to discontinue it, then we're not gonna be asking the people.
Yes, that's correct.
Correct.
Unless
It
someone
would just
makes
be
an amendment.
decided.
Unless we make an amendment, which I was about.
Okay, good.
And then we could bring forward a different motion, which might be more clear, but whatever anyone wants to do. Alder Stevens?
I'd like to offer an amendment. I would offer the amendment that we would direct the city administrator to do a general survey of staff. And based off of the results, we would authorize the discontinuation of policy 4.09A as directed by council and agreed to by staff. Is that clear enough?
Is there gonna be a percent requirement? As far as 50% say yes, and 50% say no? Or
I would leave that to the city administrator's discretion or
Okay.
discretion.
So we have an amendment. Is there a second to the amendment?
A second amendment.
Okay, so the amendment is to direct the city administrator to conduct a staff survey. And if there is support, to then proceed with discontinuing 4.09A. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that was Leanne seconded? Okay, under discussion of the amendment, Stephen Knott.
Yeah, so not comfortable with it for not just the reasons I mentioned before, but if we're going to, the way that this was just stated is that after the survey is done, the city administrator will decide what percentage threshold is agreement, which means we've just punted our responsibility. That's why the main reason I'm going to have to vote no on this is we're relinquishing our responsibility, I guess, taking the safe road of we won't be on record for actually having been the ones to make the decision. But that's our role. That is our role. This is a policy that we approved, and we should be the ones to be making the decision to repeal it.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, so we're voting on the amendment now, and the amendment concerns surveying the staff. All those in favor of the, okay,
What is amendment first?
we have to vote on the amendment,
You had the motion, I have the amendment. so
Oh,
we're
okay.
voting on the amendment.
just the amendment, which is about the surveying the staff. Okay, those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, so was it 5-1? Does everyone agree with?
Want to roll call that? or-
Yeah, let's do a roll call because I'm sorry, it wasn't very clear to me. Joanne, please.
This is for the amendment. We have Tom Smith,
Aye.
Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Stephen Knott,
No.
Dan Stokes,
Yes.
Larry Jurassic,
Aye.
Diane Wolf.
Okay, so the amendment passes, which includes the portion of surveying staff. So now the motion in whole says that the city administrator should survey staff, and if the staff is supportive, to proceed with discontinuing 4.09A face covering policy. Alder Smith.
I just have a question. Is it, what if we have a 50-50?
Is to decide.
I mean,
That's the way it was worded.
mean,
It could be
is that the
40%.
Administrator would decide. I mean, I was wondering what the ground rule for that would be. I don't want to get into too details,
And I feel like
but you know what I mean? What happens if it happens, then what?
when the administrator was giving his presentation, he said the people he talked to said that they supported. So without any further definition,
It's just the sample size is probably.
Those that would speak would likely be the ones most adamant about it. But in the theoretical 50-50, that motion does not pass. So it all depends on the survey questions that I asked would be, you need a majority.
Majority, okay.
okay, Alder Not.
Well, that's his determination then, because the way it was worded was he gets to determine what is agreement. He could have said it was 40%, could have said it was 70%.
The amendment, if you wanted to do a percentage.
No, because I'm definitely not doing that amendment.
Okay, so we're gonna vote. The motion is to survey staff and then proceed based on the outcome. Alder Wolf.
So I just want to confirm because it seemed like it was first to remove it. Usually I'm good with motions and amendments, but this one I'm a little confused with. The original motion was to remove it, but then the amendment was to
Survey staff first.
So what happens to his original amendment?
Well, the original motion is still there, it's just
Original motion.
amended.
To
It's amended to
remove-
revoke if the staff supports.
Oh, thank you.
We just want to verify, because it was my understanding that the council just wanted to verify with staff that there was support for this, that it wasn't imposed upon them. Yes, it is.
That's why I didn't like this. Okay. That's why I like it a lot cleaner. So just to confirm, so
Vote of yes is to discontinue the policy if the survey comes out that way. A vote of yes. A vote of no means
Keep it.
we don't really have any motion at all. Nothing changes, or we can make another motion. Nothing changes if you vote no.
Policy stays in effect.
Yes.
vote yes, then the city administrator will go ahead, go polling, and if it falls short of what he thinks it, whatever, then it gets removed.
Okay, so let's do a roll call vote just to avoid conflict. Joanne, please.
Leanne Stokes,
Yes.
Tom Smith,
Yes.
Larry Jurassic,
Yes.
Diane Wolf, Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Stephen Ott.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. So we have that done. Okay, thank you for your patience, everyone. Item 12, closed session. To consider a motion to convene in closed session under section 19.85, paragraph 1, paragraph C of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, specifically the city administrator. If any action is required in open session as a result of the closed session, the council will reconvene in open session to take the necessary action and/or continue on with the printed agenda. Do we have a motion?
Honor, I move that we go into closed session.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Alder Stevens, second by Alder Jurassic to go into closed session. The voting is by roll call.
Larry Jurassic,
Aye.
Stephen Ott,
Aye.
Leanne Stokes,
Aye.
Tom Smith,
Aye.
Dan Stevens,
Aye.
Diane Wolf.
Okay, we are
With the microphone.
in closed session. The time is 8:16 PM. Please take a moment to stretch your legs and we'll get back to business.
So it'll be less than 10 now. Less than 10 people, we get to remove this. Yeah.
sitting here steaming up because it was outside where it was so hot. And it wasn't getting better with time.
Totally cleansed. Instead of going.
Well, not as good as last month. So we had
Joanne?
the first thing was like, yes, let's do that. But he's like, I don't know.
Oh, thank you, Joanne. What?
My mic. I said, you're the host and you've got it all from here, right?
I do, but I think you have to leave your computer there. Otherwise, I can't see anybody.
It's okay. It's the chamber's computer.
Okay, perfect. If you can just leave that up and then I'll have somebody in there close it out.
Yeah, I think Amy will probably be here, so she will be able to do that for you.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Well, if Yeah, it's